Welcome to Lawndale Lifestyle, the show about healthy living. I'm Siri Perlman, and today we'll be talking about gardening, whether it be in community gardens, school gardens, or even gardening at home. We'll start out by going over to the McKenzie Community Garden, where we'll be speaking with Bob Givens and the Environmental Charter High School students. Let's see what they're up to. We're here at the McKenzie Community Gardens in Lawndale off of 160th and Hawthorne. And today we're going to be speaking with Bob Givens. Bob's going to tell us a little bit about the community garden, how you got involved, and then maybe how even yourself, if you're interested, how you can get involved.
You can just sign up for it. First come, first serve.
And where is this your plot here that we're next to right now? What size is this plot? Do you know the square footage?
Approximately 20 by 20.
And what are you growing in your plot?
Beans, corn, squash,
And
onions, you can grow anything you want.
how did you decide what you wanted to grow, and what do you do with it once it does grow?
Just put the seed in the ground. Yeah, zucchini, squash, simple.
And what do you do with it? Do you share it with the community, or do you take it home yourself and cook it? What do you do with?
My neighbors hate to see me come with zucchini, so it grows like this.
I also think that this is not only are you growing seasonable produce, and it's good for your diet and for your family and for your friends, but it's also great exercise. Can you tell us a little bit about how often you do it and the kind of exercise you get?
You should spend at least a couple hours a week, maybe more than that, really. Stay on top of it.
To stay on top of the garden, and also it keeps you in pretty good shape.
Yep.
Stay on top of the weeds. Well, we want to thank you so much for having us here today, and I know it's exciting I think some of the community might not even know that a community garden exists because it's kind of tucked away, but it's beautiful for this area to have something like this growing.
Sure. You eat a little better. Eat fresh anyway.
We're now with Samantha Nip from Environmental Charter High School in the community garden, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how she and her students have been involved here and trying to bring the community together. So welcome, Samantha. Actually, thank you for having us here over at your plot. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about ECHS in general? I know that it's kind of a green school, and this is the sort of thing that you do. So can you tell us a little bit about ECHS and what in general you've been teaching your students?
Sure. So at Environmental Charter High School, we try to get the students out into the community and using what we're modeling there on campus as a model for learning and for getting the kids to hands-on learning. At the school, we have tons of gardens, and actually they're very involved in planting the gardens. My students, before we came here, were working on planting the gardens, and then we came here to see what other people in our community are doing and tried to look at a bigger model than just what we have. We knew about the community garden because our gardener, Eddie, has a plot here and has been really involved in the community garden for years. But we got a call from the city, actually an email from the city, through one of the students got the email, and they invited us here, and we started getting involved by running a composting workshop, and then just deciding we wanted to get more and more involved. We got a little late start on planting. We had some seeds that we started at school, so we were waiting for them to get bigger. We also, at a brand new garden, we had to dig into the dirt, so we got a couple students out here maybe about a month ago and started actually planting.
Well, it's actually really exciting to see it from the ground up, so that over time maybe we can see how it's flourishing. To see you guys starting out, it's exciting for us. So yeah, let's go take a look and see what's going on with your students.
Essentially, it's all the students at ECHS who participate here. What we are doing right now in the community garden is that we're helping out by essentially planting new plants, moving mulch, compost, and building constructs, as you can see over there, for all the plants and everything that is being used here. It's very helpful and it's perfectly utilized.
Well, it's really great to see the students getting involved in a community garden, so they can also probably learn from you, over time. And so you're just getting the soil working and started again. How do you go about doing that?
You would have to compost or use mulch. Either of them would be helpful to get the soil started and water the plants constantly. It's very basic.
Well, thank you very much. It's really nice meeting you and seeing all the great work that you guys are doing in the garden. Thank you.
Very much. I appreciate it.
We kind of had to fix it, take off the leaves that were on here from the tree and everything, and we had to get mulch on here and fix it so it could look like a garden, so we can start planting all these vegetables and plants and all that. So we kind of made it, we first fixed it so it can look like a garden.
So here in the garden, everyone rents their own plot, and they usually go their separate ways. But now we're hoping to bring the communities together so we can all work on the plants, as a unit. And hopefully with all of our work that we put in, our garden would look more beautiful. Because right now it's standing under a freeway, and people usually don't notice it, and we want it to be noticeable and something that people are proud to have in their community.
What we're really trying to teach is an alternative lifestyle, and that even though we're in an urban area, we can be attached to the land. And I think that's really what I'm trying to do, is show them how they're attached. I talk a lot about systems thinking and connections and cycles, and I want them to be able to recognize that. We have a lot of kids that have a compost pile now at home. They have vegetable gardens going at home, and you'd be surprised how many of them have an agricultural background. Don't be afraid of it. Don't overthink it. It's not rocket science. It's horticultural science, and it's pretty easy. A little, weed, water, and fertilize.
So the way that Pac-Man has put it, that, we can all just give it a good try and try starting to plant some plants, some, fruits or vegetables, and it's not the end of the world if one of two of them pass away, but we should get started trying to do it, and we'll learn from it, right, Pac-Man?
That's right, and a dead plant is just compost.
The work at the community gardens is really exciting, and I hope that you're excited about participating and going over there yourself sometime. And now we're going to be talking with Master Gardener Kris Lauritson about the school gardens throughout Lawndale Elementary School District, as well as the Victory Garden program that she works on. So, Kris, thank you so much for being here today. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you, Siri. It's fun to be here.
Thank you. So can you first tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background in gardening, and also what it means to be a master gardener?
I got started in gardening at my son's elementary school, and I just fell into it by chance. I was a total urban rat and had no idea how to garden or what gardening was about, but I learned fast. And through that experience, I found out that I had a real passion for gardening. Plus, I loved working with the kids. That was the best part, and they were so much fun, and they loved it. So together, we were learning about gardening at the same time. And through that program, I applied at the UC Cooperative Extension Master Gardener program in Los Angeles County, and got accepted into that program, which was really life-changing. And part of the commitment that we have to make as master gardeners to that program is that we will go into underserved areas. And so through a mutual friend, that's how I ended up at Billy Mitchell Elementary, and asked the principal if they were interested in having a school garden, and she was very enthusiastic about it.
Mitchell has been so lucky to have you. I know now they have the Mitchell World of Plants due to your hard work that helped you become a master gardener, but now it's part of their school culture. And then beyond Billy Mitchell, the word got out that you had helped them in that regard, and I know that you've helped with the startup of a lot of the school gardens, or if they were already started, you helped them to develop to be something a little bit more manageable or have the kids become more involved. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me why it's so important, do you think, for schools to have gardens? How does it benefit the school?
Well, today there seems to be a deficiency between children and the natural world. So having a school garden connects that, links children with the natural world. And through that, kids are experiencing hands-on opportunities in the garden and working with plants and planting seeds. And there's volumes of statistics now and reports that verify that school gardens increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables among children. And so that in itself is one of its many values.
And I know that recently, within this year, you've come on board the Network for Healthy California staff and actually been working with teachers, teaching them how to teach lessons in the garden, whether it be Harvest of the Month or just the kids learning about how plants grow. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
That's been a really fun experience. I loved traveling to the other schools and working with the teachers, getting to know the teachers and getting to know the students, and witnessing firsthand the enthusiasm from the teachers, the administrators, the teachers, and the students. The same enthusiasm that we have been experiencing for the last few years at Mitchell. And the kids love it. And so the teachers had an opportunity to sign up for the classes. It wasn't mandatory. And at Anderson, we had a very high rate, but there were still a few classes who hadn't signed up. Well, word got out with the kids. And so, eventually the kids, I guess, harassed the teachers enough that toward the end of the series of lessons, new classes were signing up, which I love seeing. And it didn't matter when they came into the lessons that were planned. There was something to be learned at each one of them. So it's been positive throughout.
No, I know you were such a hit at Anderson that they didn't want to let you go, and they've been trying to keep you there in some capacity, but I know we're trying to spread your knowledge and enthusiasm and love of gardening to the other school sites. So,
right.
So you've been doing a great job with all the schools.
Yeah, I'm headed to Carson next, which I'm excited about. They just installed a little school garden there.
I've seen that. And then I know too that the garden lessons are linked to core curriculum. Can you tell us a little bit about how some of the lessons and the kids being in the garden, they actually learn, some science, some math?
There isn't a standard that can't be applied to the outdoor classroom in the garden, except the difference is it's by nature. It's again, connecting the kids in natural setting versus the indoor classroom. And all of the California standards can be applied in the garden. And there's also studies that have proven that many of the core standards are more successful and actually really hit home with the kids out in the garden. And it's really an addendum to what's going on in the classroom. It's not to say one's better than the other, but it's an addition, and it helps reinforce a lot of those core lessons with the kids, again, by experiential learning and hands-on, and it really brings math and science and literature and history really home with these kids. So I think it needs to be a combination of the two to really see the success come out of it. So
I think it's a win-win all around. I know that, for them to be able to apply some of the math, the science, even writing about the garden, they can improve on their writing skills. It's something they're passionate about.
Absolutely.
They're excited just coming from the gardening, coming back and writing up a storm. And then just for them to be able to outdoors and actually get some physical activity too.
Right.
In addition to the Harvest of the Month program, we visited you when we were doing coverage on Harvest of the Month and seeing the kids get excited about trying peas when they were the Harvest of the Month, and they got to take them off the plant and eat them. So all around, your program or gardening in the schools, to me, appears to be a fabulous addition to the schools.
There isn't a garden coordinator, garden educator like what I do across the country that won't verify that kids eat more fruits and vegetables out of the garden than they do at home or in the cafeteria. They just do. I don't know why. It's the setting, it's the fact that they helped grow it, but they will try things that they normally would not touch with a 10-foot pole. And it's got to be the garden setting and the fact that they have ownership in it, and they helped grow it, and so they want to taste it, they want to eat it.
I'm sure there's a lot of parents that would thank you for doing all of that as well. They might not be able to get the kids to try it at home, but I'm sure the garden influences that. And then I know another one of your passions too is Victory Garden. And that you've been doing a lot of work with that here in Lawndale, and that you recently had some classes going at the Lawndale Library. Can you tell us a little bit about what a Victory Garden is, first of all?
Well, Victory Gardens were popular especially during World War II, when food rationing was going on. And so the U.S. government asked the people of America to start their own Victory Gardens so that this was to ensure enough food for our soldiers overseas. And 20 million people rose to the occasion and planted Victory Gardens. So 40% of the vegetables that were grown in the U.S. during that time were from Victory Gardens. Wow. And even after the war ended, most of those gardens stayed in operation. They continued on. And any surplus foods that they grew, they canned and saved for during the winter months. So it was tremendously successful and really helped the war effort. And it gave people a feeling that they were contributing to the war effort back then. Well, today, since really 2008, when we had a financial and economic downturn, many in the United States is suffering from food insecurity. And so the Master Gardener program thought that it was a good opportunity to start a series of 4 classes to offer to all the people in LA County to learn how to grow their own fruits and vegetables. Hunger is a major issue today, and 1 out of 5 people have a problem with not enough food. And there's 49 million people in the United States alone who struggle to put food on the table, and 16 million of those people are children. So this has to be addressed, and this is a way that the Master Gardener program is taking a look at that and trying to help people learn the basic fundamentals of how to grow fruits and vegetables at home, in a container, on your roof, I mean, wherever, and give them the basic skills to do that. And so that's what we've been doing here in Lawndale. And we either hold the classes at Billy Mitchell or at the Lawndale Library. And it's really fun, and I've built a relationship now with these folks in the at Lawndale and Hawthorne community, and actually the South Bay in general. We've got students from Torrance, Redondo Beach, Hermosa, and it's been really, really rewarding. And we continue that connection. So I make myself available for any gardening questions, because it's important for them to feel that they're not just left alone with these brand new skills. There's somebody there that will help them to ensure success, and that's what we want to do.
Kris, I love speaking with you. You're so passionate about this, and you know so much. You're such a resource, and we're so lucky to have you.
It's fun.
And you have your students from your Victory Garden classes, but you also are a coach on Lawndale Lifestyle. So if people haven't been part of your classes, they can also go to lawndalelifestyle.com and contact you with questions about gardening.
Absolutely, and the UC Master Gardener website is an invaluable resource that everybody should bookmark on their computers, because you can download for free the beginning gardening booklet that they created, and it's in English and in Spanish. And there are a huge list of articles, gardening articles, that are available on how to grow in containers, about composting, about soil, seed starting. I mean, it covers the whole spectrum. So that one website is a perfect place to start if you're thinking about starting a garden at home right now, and especially spring and summer is really fun. Everybody wants to get those delicious homegrown tomatoes going. Strawberries. Whatever you have the room for. Yeah. So I would highly recommend people to go to the UC Cooperative Extension Master Gardener website for LA County and peruse the available resources that are right there and are free.
And you mentioned composting.
Yes.
We actually have footage that we can share with you from one of Kris's Victory Garden classes, where you'll get to learn a little bit about how easy composting is and how you can do that at home. So why don't we take a look at that, and then we'll continue with Kris in just a moment.
As long as we've had trees on the planet, we've had compost, because all really it is the decomposition of organic material. For the most part, anything from a plant can go in there, and anything from a plant meaning any kind of like a food that came from a plant, and even paper that came from a plant is fine too. So you want to start with, it's really ideal if you have a compost bin. It's ideal to have a tree or a source of dry leaves. You can always get straw. You can buy a bale of straw. That works too. You can use shredded newspaper. So as long as you have a source of dry material, if you just have wet material, then you really just want to get a worm bin, because a worm bin is really just for the wet material. You know, start with some nice dry leaves. Just throw them in there. And remember, this is open on the bottom. Okay, I have newspaper in there just so it doesn't make a huge mess in here. So you're going to start throwing some leaves down there. And then you can always shred in some newspaper, like when you run out of leaves. Just shred some newspapers is a good brown. If it's like the summer and there's no leaves out there, shred up some newspaper. And then you want to mix it up, because newspaper will get all matted together and clump if you don't mix it up. The actual recipe, if you look at the flyer, it's half browns, half greens. Well, greens, the greens weigh a lot more because there's a lot more moisture. So it's really more like 3 times the browns to greens. So, and you know, you're really just going to be able to eyeball it. You're going to just tell, oh, my pile is wet. You know, I need to put more browns. And the browns are carbon and the greens are nitrogen. So browns are the dry and dead things and the greens are the wet and smelly things. Okay? Or, you know, things with a lot of moisture in them. So yes, you put your plant clippings in your bin. You know, your dead flowers, you know, that you had in your house, the cut flowers, those are all good too. So that's the greens and the browns. And let me show you some other options of greens and browns. Okay, so there are, like, you know, Starbucks cups everywhere and all the little coffee cups. These are compostable. You can just break them up and put them in there. The ones that aren't dirty are perfectly fine to recycle. But if they've got a lot of food waste on them, they need to go into compost or whatever, or trash. But if they're clean, they can go into recycling. And then these are those cornstarch thingies, which you can put in there. The squishy little ones. They're not the styrofoam ones. You don't want to put styrofoam in there. And the little paper trays like that can be composted too. No plastic, no metal, no glass. Okay, so you want to keep it organic. And then you also want to, if you're putting paper in, I like to put in newspaper versus shredded paper because you don't know where the inks come from if you're putting in like office paper. Whereas newspapers, they all have to use soy ink now, so it's a safe bet. So basically any kind of, you know, leftover stuff that's gone bad, you didn't have a chance to eat, or like I said, peelings and clippings and whatnot. So no dairy, no meat. Fats and oils, you don't want to take your bacon grease and throw it in there either. So that should go into a can or something and then put in the trash. And no, don't put dog waste in your compost or cat waste or any kind of domesticated animal. If you have a cow or a horse or a chicken, you can put their waste in there, a grazing animal, but don't put dog waste in there. So I've got food in here, and it's going to smell if it just is sitting there. So what I want to do is, you don't want to be a dump and run composter. We want to make sure we cover it up with some dry material and keep it from smelling. If you don't have dry material handy, you can bury it in the pile. Just dig a hole and bury the food. But again, you never want to leave the food sitting on the top. Again, that's just a welcome invitation for the critters. And it'll smell. So again, bury it or cover it up. And if you don't have any stuff, you can always use dirt. But we always go easy on the dirt because dirt will lower the temperature of the pile. And the colder the pile, the longer it's going to take to break down. Mix your pile up and just get air in the pile. That's all we're trying to do is get air in the pile. Okay? And then once you've got it mixed up, you go ahead and add some water. Don't go too crazy because, again, you don't want it to be soggy. And you want to make sure it's draining out nicely. You don't want a wet, yucky pile. You just want it nice and moistened and get it moistened all the way through. So just, you know, take some water and, you know, with the hose and just get it nice and moistened. You don't want to put anything that's diseased or weeds. I don't put any like crabgrass. I really don't put any of that stuff in my compost bin. I don't even put pine needles just because they're so acidic and they take a while to break down. Pine cones, things like that, you don't want to really put in. This is finished compost. How do you know when it's done? It doesn't look like what you put in. Everybody get a worm bin, get a compost bin, one or the other. This is easier and more forgiving to start with. Okay, and don't be afraid and spread the word, the compost word to your friends. It's not rocket science, it's rot science. Okay.
Well, I hope that quick clip from over at the Victory Garden classes got you excited about starting with your own composting and starting your own garden at home. So let's talk a little bit more with Kris and find out how, if you aren't comfortable getting started gardening now, you can find out a little bit more by, you know, signing up for her next Victory Garden class. So, Kris, you just completed one of your great Victory Garden classes, which actually my mom attended too, and I know she loved. Now that people might be finding out about it for the first time, when do you plan on offering your next series of Victory Garden classes, and how would someone register?
The classes occur in the spring and the fall. And again, you can go to the Master Gardener website for LA County, and listed on the left side of the page, it'll say Grow LA Victory Garden Initiative classes, and you can click on that, and that'll list all of the classes available in LA County and which ones are in English or Spanish. And so people can go look at that and figure out the schedule. We just completed the spring classes, so it won't be until September, October that the fall classes begin.
So we love you and being in our community, and I'm sure now, Lawndale community knows all about you, but if they can't find a Victory Garden class with you, you're saying they can go to the website and see what other classes are available, because in the South Bay it sounds like it's booming, that there's a lot of master gardeners offering these classes.
There's a few. I know there's, in our area, there's the one I offer here in Lawndale, and there's one in Long Beach. And then I'm not sure about any others yet, but the Victory Garden classes have grown as well. When we started, there were only 10 of us teaching them, and now there's I think there's close to 25. So that could change again in the fall. It could increase, and so that more classes are available to folks.
So until that time, how would you suggest someone who's been now inspired by listening to you or seeing all the resources that are available, how would you suggest they get started gardening this spring or summer?
Well, what I would recommend, if they want to take the Victory Garden classes, again, go to the Master Gardener website and get on Yvonne Savio's email list. It's fabulous. She is our manager of the entire program. And so if you get on her email list, then you will hear through the email the announcement of when the classes are starting, and that'll tell you how to enroll. In the meantime, like I said earlier, is go to the Master Gardener website. You can download the Beginning Gardening book for free, and that really will give you enough basic information to get started.
And for somebody like me, I wouldn't say I necessarily have a green thumb. I look for those really strong waxy plants that I can't kill. What are some of the easier fruits or vegetables for them to start with so they can build their confidence in starting gardening? I think strawberries are pretty easy, maybe tomatoes. Tell us, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in our warm season crops, so you can really speed up the process by going to one of the nurseries or the big box stores and buying seedlings, and buy what you like to eat. That's what we recommend in the classes as well. It's and start out small. And so a tomato plant is a good place to begin, and you can do that in a container that's about 18 inches deep or in the ground. And peppers and strawberries, start with a little herb garden. That's a great way to begin. Otherwise, melons and corn, I mean, those require a lot of space and a little trickier to grow. But peppers, definitely peppers and tomatoes and herbs, and there's some summer spinaches that you can grow, and so just whatever you enjoy to eat is a good way to begin. And when you go to the nurseries, what they're going to have available in the way of seedlings are perfect for this time of year, so you usually can't go wrong.
And you can also have fun and get creative with the containers that you use, right? I know over at Environmental Charter High School, they even use old canoes that can't go in the water anymore, and they turn that into a planter.
Exactly.
So it could be a real fun family project in terms of planting the produce and then eating it, but also the way in which they decide to grow it and what they use.
Get creative. As long as you drill holes in it and you've got drainage, you can pretty much grow anything in any kind of container. It's just make sure you have drainage. And again, go back to the Master Gardener website and get that beginning gardening book so that you start off with on the right foot with soil, because soil is really the most important element. If you've got good healthy soil, then you're going to have good healthy plants.
Well, Kris, thank you so much.
You're
we really
welcome.
appreciated having you here. We also really appreciate all the work that you've done here in Lawndale and for our community. So I want to thank you. You're wonderful. And I want to remind everyone that there's a lot of really great resources that Kris suggested, a lot of ways for you to learn about how to start gardening. But don't forget, on the Lawndale Lifestyle website, lawndalelifestyle.com, you can find Coach Kris. Click on the link for gardening and then ask her your own questions. So I'm sure she'll be excited to, get back to you. So don't, even for someone like myself who's not used to gardening, I think, there's so many resources out there, and we know we can count on Coach Kris to help us out. I think it's, fun to give it a try. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time on Lawndale Lifestyle.